going to do is just give you an outline of some facts and figures. Probably some of you already know this information. Then I'm going to outline the work that we do at the 999 Club, and then give you a couple of case studies that I'd like you all to look at and to try to identify any potential safeguarding concerns, and just give your views really on what you think we should do, how could we better support the people that we work with. What I hope comes across is that we're working with an increasing number of people who have very, very complex needs, for want of a better term, and are living in very difficult situations. So it's actually really difficult to identify risk and how to manage that risk. If anybody's got any questions, that's fine. Just ask them as we go through, rather than saving them all up to the end. Okay, so as you know, there are lots of different forms of homelessness. I'm going to focus today mostly on rough sleeping, which is at the kind of sharp end of the homelessness spectrum, and where we specialise as a service. Okay, so homelessness across England. There are at least 320,000 homeless people in England, and that's an ever increasing number. There are lots of criticisms of the way that data is captured and analysed, but that's a well-respected figure that's based on the number of people rough sleeping, the number of people in hostels, and people in temporary accommodation. And that represents a year-on-year increase of around 4%. And the national picture is that around 1 in 200 people are homeless, although when we look at data in London, the prevalence increases to 1 in 52. So it's obviously a huge issue. Some have described what's called a perfect storm for increasing homelessness. So we've got the very well-reported welfare cuts, issues around benefits, universal credit, not least, lack of social housing, and the huge increase in rent costs. Okay, so moving on to the number of people rough sleeping. The national estimate was 4,751. That's the latest data that's available, and that represents an increase of 15% on the previous year, and a huge increase since 2010. London has seen a 174% increase during that period, so it's a huge issue and one that's growing. What do we know about people who are rough sleeping? The vast majority are men, around 85%. Women who are homeless tend not to come to services, tend not to access services, and tend to not be found. Essentially, they're not very well, they're obviously there, but they don't come to the fore, really. Most are adults, 25 to 44-year-olds, although we've seen an increasing number in both very young people and older people as well. The vast majority are UK nationals, although around 35% of people that use our services are EEA nationals. That's not necessarily the picture nationally. Huge numbers have mental health issues, and as you'll know, huge numbers also have substance misuse issues as well. Okay, so rough sleeping is increasing, it's becoming more prevalent. It's also, people that are rough sleeping tell us, becoming much more dangerous. So a recent study showed that almost over 3/4 had antisocial behaviour or a crime committed against them within the past 12 months. And that's a crime committed against them by a member of the public rather than another homeless person. People are intimidated, they're threatened. People come to us every day having been attacked by other people who aren't homeless. Some of them are, but predominantly not. People are sworn at, spat at, urinated on daily. People believe that their lives on the streets are becoming harder. That's certainly borne out by the evidence. A significant number report having been sexually assaulted, and a stark figure is that the average age of death of a homeless man is 47, compared with 74 in the general population, and for a homeless woman it's just 43 years old, compared with 80% in the general population. Okay, this graph here shows the number of people that have been found rough sleeping in Lewisham. So Lewisham Council runs what's called a street count currently every 2 months. So a team of volunteers goes out and looks for people who are rough sleeping. So the last count that we did last week, we found 16 people rough sleeping in Lewisham. We know from our own experience every day that that is a massive underrepresentation of the true figure, but we did only find 16 people. There was a peak of 28 people at the beginning of 2018, and then a drop, and then it looks as though it's picking up again. Okay, so what do we do? So we're what I guess you could regard as quite a traditional day centre, operating in South East London, one of the most deprived areas of the borough. We refocused our approach a few years ago. We moved away from being a day centre that supported anybody that wanted to turn up, to focusing much more on homeless people and people who are rough sleeping. So we run 2 services. An early morning service for people who tell us that they're rough sleeping. They can come to us and do practical things like laundry, have a shower, have breakfast. But the most important part for us is that we can continue to begin to build a relationship with people so that we can work with people to try and move them away from rough sleeping. So we've reduced our opening hours, reduced the number of people that access the service, and operate a much more targeted approach. So everybody that comes to us is assigned a case manager who will work with them to look at both their support needs, but also their assets and their strengths, to look at kind of where they want to be in terms of their situation. Obviously, ideally no longer homeless, but more than that too. We have access to various health services, so we have a visiting GP service, which is great. We have a visiting nurse and a visiting mental health practitioner, so anybody that accesses those services can hopefully improve their physical and mental health. We have a learning and activities programme where we work with people to improve their basic skills and other skills. We have an employability advisor and somebody that we call an asset coach that works to maximise people's assets and life skills. We also run a permanent year-round night shelter, which is the only night shelter in the borough and the only night shelter locally that operates year-round, and we receive referrals from various referral partners locally, and we can support up to 25 people a night across the year. And anybody that comes into our night shelter, again, is offered a caseworker, and they will look at their situation with the person and try to help them find a longer-term sustainable alternative. Moving on to who uses our services, so we have around 1,000 people a year coming through our doors. Over half of those people tell us that they're rough sleeping, so obviously a very high proportion, much higher than you would see in any street count. The vast majority are men, although if you look at our night shelter data, we have a far higher proportion of women staying in our night shelter. I think we have probably around 10 women currently in our night shelter out of a total of 25, so obviously a much higher figure. Most are in the 35 to 44 year age bracket, although we have quite a lot of very much older people, and we also have a 19-year-old staying in our night shelter at the moment, which is far from ideal. The vast majority of people that access our services have, I guess for want of a better term, quite complex needs, quite significant mental health difficulties, trauma, drug and alcohol issues. And as I mentioned, a significant proportion are non-UK nationals, mostly EEA nationals who aren't exercising their treaty rights, so they're not working and therefore they're not eligible for benefits, which makes moving from homelessness into housing almost impossible. Very few would be eligible for the supported housing pathways via the local authority, although we do work very closely with the local authority and try to make that happen where we can. Okay, so in terms of safeguarding challenges, the vast majority of people that we work with is at risk of abuse or neglect, and that makes it really difficult for us to support almost everybody. I guess what I want to get from everybody here is a sense of, when we go through the case study shortly, is how do we identify somebody that's at greater risk of abuse or neglect, and what do we do about that with our colleagues in different agencies. Okay, so I've got 2 case studies here. If you could maybe work in groups of 4, probably, and I'd like you to read each of the case studies and just bear in mind these questions, and I'll give you maybe 10 or 15 minutes to have a look at them, have a discussion, and then we'll do some feedback. She does sleep rough, she won't tell us where. She sometimes stays with people that she regards as friends but who also exploit her. There's been a decline in her presentation, particularly around her mental health. She told us that she has various diagnoses, including depression, bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, and that she was diagnosed when she was living in Italy. She told us that she spent 5 days in hospital in the recent-ish past during a depressive episode. She's a known heroin user. She told us that she carries a knife. Another woman that uses the services told us that Elle is putting pressure on her to give her money. Elle was recently overheard by a member of staff saying to another person using the services that she felt like hurting somebody else or herself. She told a member of staff that she'd stabbed an ex-partner in the past, that she feels suicidal, and that she feels anger and aggression towards men. And the words that she actually used were, "I'm going to stab somebody, somebody must die." So she was quite explicit about what she wanted to do. Okay, she said that she's usually able to manage how she feels, but she's struggling to do so currently. Staff were really concerned about her, called the emergency services, they were told that the police would be in attendance, and in fact an ambulance came. They encouraged her to go to hospital, and she declined. She then left the service for the day and was later seen by a colleague with a man who we believe exploits vulnerable women. So, my question to Group A is, what are the risks? What would you do in that situation, and what do you think the outcome should be? Okay, so shall we move on to case study B? So Jay is a 56-year-old woman.
Sorry, can I just ask, so what's the outcome? Or where are you now with the case?
The outcome is that she's left the area.
She's what?
She's left the area. Which isn't a great outcome, obviously, because the problem has just moved elsewhere. She's chosen to leave the area because she doesn't feel safe. Okay, moving on to case study B, we have Jay, who's a 56-year-old woman. She lives in a shared house with 4 other tenants. She does have a history of rough sleeping following the eviction from a private rented property where there were no real issues to report. She was referred into a local low-level supported housing project that we don't manage. The referral indicated no concerns about her mental health, no substance misuse issues. The other tenants find her quite difficult to live with. She's argumentative and can be quite aggressive. She's difficult to engage. She doesn't keep appointments with her caseworker. There seems to be a deterioration in her mental health and the level of her aggression towards other people. One day she reported to another tenant that there was a dead body in the bathroom upstairs. They were concerned, and so they called the person that manages the supported housing project, who in turn called the police. Not quite sure why, but they did. The police came, they were concerned about her capacity, so they called an ambulance. The paramedics felt that she did have capacity and they refused to take her to hospital. Again, this is a real case that happened just a couple of weeks ago. They're concerned about her well-being, and so they raise a safeguarding concern, as does the manager of the supported housing project. So nothing happens for another couple of weeks when her behaviour seems to escalate again. she becomes racist towards other people, and she threatens to burn the house down with everybody in it. Again, the police are called, an ambulance is called. They're concerned that she does have some mental health issues, but they don't really think that she's going to burn the house down with everybody in it, and they don't feel that she's really a genuine threat to herself or to anybody else. So, again, back to the questions. What do you think the risks are? What would you have done? And what should the outcome be? Over to you.